Well, hello again, my fellow modelers. Boyd here with you once more. Well, we're working on something very interesting here this go around, and you can see this kit here is the Peterbilt California Hauler. This is a brand new kit that's been re-released by AMT Round 2 models. This is an old model that was around in the late 70s, early 80s, and it was a great kit. It's a highly detailed kit. It's got lots and lots of parts with it, and we're going to be building this truck up as the classic evil truck from the movie Duel. And some of you guys out there have already we've been posting some stuff about this over on Facebook and stuff, and some of you guys are big fans of the film just like me. I've always wanted to have a model of this. I was really excited about building the Interceptor, but I've always wanted to build a model of this truck as well, and there just aren't any basically standard kits available of the truck, especially in 1/24 scale. You have to do a lot of creating to make it work. You can see the basic form of the Peterbilt here is similar to the truck in the film, but there's quite a few differences. Basically, the only part we can use here is the chassis, the drivetrain, and the rear half of the cab. The whole front of the vehicle is completely wrong. So you can actually see a picture here in the background of more of what the truck should look like. The truck in the background has the small, what they call needle nose front end on it, which is a much smaller grille and a tapered hood and a different front bumper, and then it had the old style round headlights instead of these more modern looking ones, just two single round headlights on each side in the front. So we're going to be ordering an aftermarket resin kit for that to correct those details, but for the rest of this we're going to be doing some scratch building and all kinds of different techniques here. The truck had an incredible detailed and really nasty patina on it. When I've been looking at screen grabs from the film, they just went to town on that truck. I mean, it's got rust, it's got grease, it's got layers and layers and layers of weathering, and they wanted to make it look old and worn out, and we're going to have a lot of fun doing that here on this model. It's something that I've really been enjoying lately. It's an area that I've not really delved into a whole lot before. Doing Star Trek and sci-fi, you do a lot of really clean looking subjects, and so expanding my modeling experience here a little bit with some of this stuff, similar to what I did with the U-boat that I built a while back. I really had fun doing that. So again, and always wanting to have a model of this. Now this is the tractor part, and we're actually going to be building the tanker for this as well too, and I'll a little bit farther down the video here I'll explain what our plan is with that. So here's a basic look at the box, guys. I'm not going to do an out-of-the-box review on this for you. There'll be somebody that'll do that here for sure coming up since the kit's been repopped, but just to give you a look at what we're starting with here. And so let's go from here and head right over to the bench, guys, and get this thing cranked up. We'll see you with that in just a couple seconds, everybody. Be right back. Moving farther along now, everybody, I've got the frame put together here. Quite a few pieces in this model. I'm really pleased with all the detail that's in this thing. We had probably about 30 or 40 parts in this already, all the cross members and the suspension pieces, the air ride suspension, the brake, air brakes, everything, all the details here. So this is a nicely detailed kit. Lots of little bit of pieces of flash on it. I had to do quite a bit of cleaning up on it, and then I had to make sure that the frame dried perfectly square here and everything too, so we got that taken care of. But as we know, when we talked about at the beginning of this video, this truck in this particular movie is really grungy and dirty, and so we're going to go back to our old standby here, guys. We're going to use some more of our artist chalk, and now that I've put a basic coat of satin black down on this frame, I'm going to just take some of our dirt color here and just start washing this thing down and getting it dirtied up. We want it to look pretty grungy, guys, so don't be afraid to put too much of this stuff on if you're going to do a model like this. We're going to seal this with a clear coat afterwards, and it will tone it down just slightly because it kind of absorbs the powder. If you want to try to preserve it a little bit better, what you do is you spray your clear coats on really light and force dry it right away, and that seems to help with this chalk. But you can see I'm just going over this thing like crazy, just making it kind of grunged up and just kind of at random like we usually do here. Been on this kind of dirty car kick lately, I know, but this is a lot of fun, and it just really helps to bring out the realism and the detail on this. I really think this turns out cool. So we're just kind of giving it a good general covering here. Then I'm going to switch colors and add another secondary color in there. But I just want it to be pretty grunged up here. That was what was so cool about that truck in that movie. It just had, it looked so evil because of the really industrial looking and, you know, worn out patina that it had on it. Made it seem a little bit more mysterious, I think. So we'll just continue on here a little bit more. Okay, we've got pretty good amount of that. I want to make sure I get down here on the bottom on the differentials and all the detail on the bottom side of the chassis here. Just get a general coating of this color, and then we'll add in a secondary color here just to give it a little bit of depth, like we showed you doing on the car, the 18 scale die cast that we did a little while ago. It just makes all the little details just jump right out on this. I mean, immediately. Okay guys, I think we got a pretty good coating to start with here of this primary color, so let's go ahead, and what I'm doing now is I'm just kind of rubbing it in a little bit. That's one thing I forgot to mention last time. You do want to kind of drag it and rub it into the paint a little bit so it kind of clings to it, and then it makes it look more worn in and, you know, like it's been there a long time. But you can see how it highlighted all the little rivets and everything and the bolts on the chassis here. That's exactly what we were trying to do. Okay, let's switch now to a little bit lighter color, that probably that same one that we used last time. It seems to work pretty well. We'll use this one again. It seems to go nicely with that other color and looks just like deserty kind of dirt. This film again was kind of out in the, I think they filmed it out in the desert or outside of Los Angeles somewhere. You can see cactus and everything in the background during the film, so very cool. Yep, I'm not being afraid to put too much of this on because I can take it back off if I want just by a little bit of water. But again, it's going to die down quite a bit when we put our clear coat on this. And sometimes you may have to do this once or twice, like I said, to get it sealed in there and get it to where you like it. You could just leave it this way too. It'll pretty much stay on here. But I like to seal it up. And we didn't seal it on the car because we wanted to leave that one if we ever wanted to, like we mentioned, if we ever wanted to take that one back to original, we can easily clean that whole paint job right up, get it back to high gloss black. But this one's going to stay permanently this way, guys. It's meant to look like this. So okay, let me hold this up for you now. And that looks properly grungy. Properly grungy for sure. Now what I'll do is after I get this sealed, I'll actually switch to a little bit of my oil-based paints too here. And what we'll replicate then, or attempt to replicate, is we're going to try to do some, you know, actual little rust streaks and runs down the side of the frame here and there, and little details, you know, beyond what the powder can do. And it'll all kind of look like it blends in. So let me grab my clear really quick. I'll come back here and we'll get the heat gun set up and everything. We'll dust a little bit of clear on this and show you how that looks after we do that. Hang tight, everyone. We are back again, everyone, and we're ready to go with this. You can see what I'm using is just the good old standby Tester's dull coat, nothing fancy at all. And I'm just going to lightly dust this on here, and I'm going to use my trusty heat gun that you guys see me using all the time here. And we'll try to keep our fading to a minimum. What I'm going to do is just dust a tiny little bit on this, make sure we're clear here. And well, here we go. You can see it already kind of tones it down a little, but I'm just going to go over it with the heat gun. Nothing crazy. Not getting too close. I got it on low setting. I just want to seal that stuff on there. It's actually staying on there pretty good. Looks about right. I like it. We might have to do a little bit more towards the rear there. It looks a little too black. But it looks nicely grungified. I like that. Okay, guys, let's give that a little bit of a break here, and we'll just take a little bit more of this stuff, and we're going to hit this little area in the back just a little bit more. It needs just a little bit more detail there. And we want to keep our two separate colors, so I'm going to go ahead and switch back to this other color real quick and do a little bit over top of these areas. That's looking really good. I like that. Okay, a little bit more clear here again. Oops, there goes my water bottle. Sorry about that. Just little puffs of clear. I'm not laying it on there super thick, as you can tell. That's the key to not making it completely dry up, or absorb the powder and make it turn back to almost a gloss finish again. So let's hold this up for you now, and you can see it looks properly rustified and yucky looking there. Maybe we should spray a little bit here on the back of these differentials too, just to seal those in. Okay, hopefully you guys can see all that. Get my fingers out of the way here for you. It looks great. Just what we were hoping for. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll come back and get our rust out here, and we're going to start doing a little bit of our oil-based rust, I should say, our acrylics, and I'll start doing a little bit of that for you. Be right back with that one. Okay, so here are our acrylic oil-based paints. These are readily available just about anywhere at any hobby store or Hobby Lobby or Michael's. They're very inexpensive. I bought a 12-pack of these in all different colors for something like $10. And a little bit of this stuff goes a long way, guys. These will last you a long, long time. These particular ones here are water-based, so they will break down with water. You can also use terpenol on it if you want to thin it that way. And as I said, a little bit of this stuff goes a really long ways, guys. So what I'm going to do, I've got my two favorite colors here. I've got yellow ochre and burnt sienna. Those are the colors that I think really do a nice job replicating kind of rust. And sometimes you do them by themselves, and sometimes you mix them together a little bit to get that kind of orange and red oxide staining look. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to start off with some of this yellow ochre, and I'm just going to kind of get my brush loaded up with it here a little bit. And you want to do almost like a kind of a dry brushing technique with this stuff, guys, if you've done that before with your other paints. I'm just going to get this down where it's not laying it down, super heavy. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start picking a few spots where I think that there might be a little bit of rust on this thing. Like maybe like next to these spring shackles. Maybe a little bit on the outside of the spring shackles. Now what I'm doing now at first is I'm just putting it down on there just to make a spot, and I'm going to take a little bit of water and I'm going to dilute that a little bit and make it look a little bit more streaked and kind of evenly flowing in there. We'll just do a few places here and there that we feel like doing. A little bit of just again, it's to try to bring out a little bit of detail here and there. Well, maybe we'll put like a couple of chips in the middle of the frame there. We'll add a little bit of that other color next to it. Have it kind of running down. And a little bit up here. Again, around our spring shackles. Maybe a little bit above. This works really, really well for this. Really awesome. And I'm just kind of now just adding a few little to kind of blend in things here. I don't want to overdo it. So we're just going to leave that about like that for now, if I can get a little bit closer here for you. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my I've got my water bottle and I'm just squirting a little bit of water on the tip of the brush. You could also just have a little cup here with some water in it. That would work too. I'm just going to get a little bit of water on this, and I'm going to try it in a few places here and just see if it'll kind of break down a little bit. That's exactly what it's doing. I think I would be better off with some water. Let me put a little bit in this bowl here. And I have to use quite a bit of water. Works out great. Just breaks this stuff right down and kind of makes it blend in a little bit more. Okay. Some of them we're going to leave a little bit more defined. Okay, so I think I like that. Now, where this really comes to life is we start using our other color here. Get our brush loaded up here. Okay, and we're just going to pick a few spots and kind of blend that in and add a little bit to it. Take this down just a little bit. Looks just like that natural rust when it's kind of multicolored. Just being a little quiet right now because I'm just thinking about where I want to blend it in. Okay, that is properly rusty. If you guys can see that on there, that looks absolutely great. The exact detail we wanted. Now what I'll do is I'm going to take and dry this off real quick. I'll just take my little compressed air. And we're going to top this off by doing a black dust job on this now. Just something I'm going to try different here. Like I said, if I don't like it, I can get it back off there, but I think this will blend everything in nice. I get a little water in it, that's no problem. It kind of tones it down some here and there. Okay, let me dry this real quick. Sorry, I'm off camera here for you guys. Okay, let's get you a little closer to that. How does that look, everybody? I think that came out pretty good. We'll do the same thing on the other side. And of course the wheels and everything are going to be black, and we'll do a little bit on them. The engine, we're going to do a little bit on that when it gets mounted in there. And this looks really great. I'm really happy with this. So you can see the difference here. From this side it looks kind of plain, and over here we got all of our rust and everything going on, and stains. We'll probably take maybe a little bit of the black acrylic oil there and blob some spots here and there where it's going to look like, and I'll leave it shiny, will look like little oil drips and greases on it here and there too, so that'll add a little bit more to it. Okay, so we'll come back in a little bit here, guys. We're going to be a little bit further along where we're going to start building onto the wheels and start working our way up to getting up to the top of the cab here. So I hope you enjoyed that little weathering part there, guys. Be right back after this. Whoopsie daisy, we did a little bit of a time warp here, everybody. Sorry about that. I got so into building the model and having so much fun here that I forgot to shoot some footage of the work we were doing here. I've got a little blank spot in the middle, but we'll make up for that here and we'll talk about it a little bit. I posted some pictures of that over with my still camera that I managed to take over at the Facebook page and over at the Model Shop Guys Google site page. But I'll get you caught up to speed what we were doing. When we left off on the frame here, we were finishing up on our oils and our chalk, and I lightened up the frame quite a bit here. I on purpose started out a little bit dark because I wanted to have the shading on the corners and things like that. So when we came up in the color here to more match what we came up with on the cab, you can see it's a little bit lighter than it was. And then up here at the front, we've been working on the engine mainly and getting that all put together. It's a pretty straightforward build on the engine. The thing I will mention is this kit has a lot of parts with it, a lot of detail to put in there. The engine probably had over 30 or 40 parts on it alone, so it's really cool. All the drive systems, the compressors, the governor, all that stuff is there. And what I was trying to do with the engine is the same effect we had on the chassis. I wanted it to look old and weathered, you know, the rust on the top of the valve covers, the chipping paint, and the rusty manifolds. We've got some oil leaks going on here and there around the gaskets, and I tried to pile that up around you know, the edges of the frame and stuff. What I did here a little bit was I used some flat black paints on the sides of the frame over the top of the chalk and stuff like that we put on there, and then I went in a few spots here and there, especially on this side where I wanted to have it leaking a little bit more, but we have the gloss black paint that I just painted on there, and it makes it look a little bit wetter, like it's a little bit of a fresher leak, and it's been leaking a lot on that side. So turned out pretty good with that. That worked pretty good. The rest of the chassis, we just put the drivetrain, the running gear on here, the front axle. There's quite a few parts in the suspension too. I'll turn it over and show it to you. You can see we've got all the detail of the suspension, the steering, and the drivetrain all the way going toward the rear here. We did some weathering. Probably going to do a little bit more on the bottom side here, maybe on the bottom of this tank that I've got to do a little bit, but coming along with that, so a lot of detail on there. On the sides of the truck here, on the frame, there are some subtle differences between a standard Peterbilt that this kit is and the way the truck was set up in the movie Duel. The biggest substitute is they only had one fuel tank on here, where the normal Pete has you know, two big ones on each side, one on each side on outside the frame rail, and then it has this battery box or step system here to get in the cab, and on the other side it would normally have the tank mounted here with the sort of a smaller, just mini step kind of system on that. Well, we had to have both steps the way it looks on the Duel truck, so I actually have two of these kits, so I robbed the extra battery cover kit from that, and or you know, from the kit itself, from the extra kit I have, and put that on this side, so we have the same. I did a little bit different weathering on them because I thought maybe the driver's side would be used more. You could kind of see there with that chalk and stuff, and some of our oils, and so that pretty much rounded out the bottom of the chassis here. We're going to be adding a few more little detail parts. We're going to be putting the taillights on, the mud flaps, a few little things here and there, and then there's these top plates that go on the frame that have like the little pogo stick where all your connector lines, but I'm going to kind of wait on that until I get started on the trailer and see how that's all going to have to line up, and we'll talk about the trailer here in a little bit towards the end here. And So yeah, that pretty well rounded out the detail on the frame and everything. You can see we've got quite a bit of weathering on the tires and the um, the shading that we did on the rims and everything to kind of match. I've even gone around on some of these tires and I've shaved them down a little bit, because if you look at the truck, some of the tires, the tread was almost completely worn out and bald, and some of them weren't. So we kind of did a little bit of that with some sandpaper there. So talking about the cab a little bit now, it gets interesting on this truck too. I was really confused when I was looking through the movie Duel and getting screenshots of the film, because the truck appeared to be different colors and it had different equipment on it throughout the film. And when I checked into that a little bit more, I found out that they actually used two trucks in the movie. The hero truck that you see in most of the film was destroyed at the end when it goes off the cliff. And the movie was originally released as a television movie, and it was so successful that they redid it again for a theatrical release, and they needed more footage, so they had to create another truck basically, and they got a truck that was a couple of years newer, had a little bit different setup on it here and there, and they did their best to copy the patina that the original had, which had a lot of it, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But so that's the story. When I was looking at the truck, it appeared to be different colors, different equipment on it here and there, and so I just kind of picked some of my favorite things about both of them and started incorporating into this build, namely the color on the cab. You can tell that in the main hero truck, it's sort of a really faded metallic gold. It doesn't have a lot of metal flake in it. It's a really fine metallic, but it's definitely a metallic, really faded gold. And so we started out with that as a base color here, and then we've been adding these layers and layers of weathering and staining and chipping and rust and all that all around the top of the cab. If I show you this in some light here, you can maybe see we've got the rust stains there, the sun bleach looks, some chips on the leading edges, and where it's starting to get the truck is supposed to be an old rusted dinosaur kind of looking evil truck, and really industrial looking too. So they went out of their way to really dirty this thing up and age it and everything, so we've tried to replicate that as best as we could. You can see there up at the windshield, we did the dirty windshield wiper effect like it had in the film, and most of the big stains that I could see in the pictures, I've tried to put them in the same place and the same way they look, as close as I could. We've got this kind of greasy filter assembly here on the side, which is interesting because it's red. It really clashes with the rest of the truck, so I think they did that on purpose so it would look distinct. But going back here to the rear of the cab is probably the most interesting part of what I've done so far, guys. You can see we have this sort of air conditioned unit looking piece on the back of the cab here. It's actually what they called a swamp cooler back in the day. It's sort of like an air conditioner. You can consider it maybe a poor man's air conditioner, where it just basically circulated water through it and blew a fan into the cab to kind of get rid of some of the heat. And I'm not sure if they worked really well or not, but apparently they were really reliable, and so a lot of these old trucks had them on there. And in the film you can see that this is in different configuration depending on which truck it was. In one scene you'll see it where it has this sort of shelf underneath of it, and it's a shorter unit like this. In another scene it's a big, more rectangular unit just kind of hanging out there all by itself. And like I said, I decided to incorporate things from both of the trucks, and this detail was kind of interesting, so I scratch built all this. It doesn't come with this kit, and we added that detail on there and created those little louvers on the side. On the bottom here I had some fun. I took some copper, if I don't get this too close and get blurry for you, I took some copper solid core wire that I had that looked approximately the right scale, and then I kind of bent it and shaped it and used it as the the in and out water lines of the swamp cooler. And then I thought they might look interesting, like old copper pipes when they get old and they've been damp a lot. They look kind of green and moldy, and we did a little bit of that detailing with our acrylics there. And at the back of the cab there on the bottom part, you can see it looks like the Exxon Valdez crashed into it. There's a massive big dripping oil stain there coming down the back of that, underneath of that shelf, and then that white kind of dripping stain on the side. And I started doing a little shading on the corner of the cab here where I figured the smokestack will be causing a lot of dirt and build up there, so we'll see. But going onto the sides of the cab here, it's interesting. In the movie you can see that there's a lot of damage on the cab. There's these massive scratches running down the sides of it, around the corners. There's chipping and really thick corroded rust on the bottom edges of the doors, and there's a name that used to be on the side of the truck, probably some old company name, and it looks like they took a grinding tool and grinded it off of there. And so what I did is I lightly took my Dremel to start with and grinded some kind of vertical grind marks into this, right into the plastic to give it that texture. And then I started going over it with different, you can see a little bit of the paint there, but it started to rust a little bit. And then we kind of scratched over it like it is in the film. I used some 180 grit sandpaper here and there and just made a few scratches. And then I just started weathering it all, and with our different techniques that we've been using the same way we did on the frame there. So that looks pretty close, really close to how it looks on the side of the truck, being really small like this. And I'm going to turn this thing around here, and maybe we can get a good look at the, I might have to use my flashlight, but the interior is just as ratty as the rest of the truck. It's fully detailed too. I was really pleased by the amount of detail that they give you in this kit. Like I said, a high part count kit. All the details, even his little handbrake there that you see him grab at the last second when he's going off the cliff for the air brake emergency switch there on the dash. And then what I did here on the seats is I made some kind of white spots here and there to make it look like the upholstery's been ripped, and you can see the padding underneath of it and some stuff like that. If I can shine my flashlight in here, maybe you can see a little bit of detail there on the. We've got the dash done in the wood grain, and we did all the little gauge details, and I dirtied the whole thing up with some dust and stuff like that. And really pleased, like I said, with the detail overall on this kit. So you can see we did the same thing on the damage on the door and the lettering on the side over here. And we've got everything pretty well set up and ready to go. So we're moving along, talking about our aftermarket hood that we were mentioning in the beginning. That's not here yet, but when it gets here, I'll be taking you through, and we'll be painting that up to match the patina on the rest of the truck. So I'll make up for the little stuff that I missed here and show you the same method that we did when we do the hood. Now we're getting this narrower hood that has a different shape fenders and everything. You can see I've kept my paint here. I've mixed up I call it my dual paint for my basic color. This is out of the same batch, so I can match that all up. And then as we can see in some pictures that I'll show on the next video, the front fenders on this truck are actually a really faded and dull looking pink, if you believe it or not. They're supposed to be sort of a really sun-bleached red, I think. So I'm going to start off with a base color of that, and then I'm going to start adding all the grime and the rust and everything on there, and we'll tone all that down so they don't look, blazingly pink like they, and look like they should in the film, or from the film. And that'll be fun to work on that too. The grill itself in this resin aftermarket piece, it comes as a solid, just with the ribs kind of cast across in there. So I'm going to cut all those out, and I'm going to use some strips of styrene. If you look in the film, there's some open kind of slats that you can more see the radiator detail inside. So I'm going to do that little mod to the hood, and some other little things here and there. The truck will really start coming around when we get the hood and everything put on. That's a really distinctive look that it has. And then when we start adding all of our our details, like the mirrors and the handles and everything, some of the handles that are supposed to be on the cab are not there, so we'll be making them out of little pieces of that same stuff I used here and there, this copper stranded or solid core wire that we can bend and make little handles and stuff on the truck here and there that are going to be missing, that didn't come with the kit. So we're going to try to capture all these little details as much as we can. Now, wrapping this up, guys, I'm going to talk about the trailer a little bit. The trailer, as you guys know, that when I talked about this on Facebook, will probably, my original plan was it was going to probably have to be done completely from scratch. There's not an existing kit that I could find anywhere on my first look that was close to what we need. This had a really unique trailer. Some people have said it's a mid to late 50s or early 60s Fruhoff shorty tanker trailer that possibly was a European import of some kind. And so they were pretty rare, but even at the time they weren't that many around when they made this film. And they picked it because it was short and it made the truck faster and more maneuverable for what they needed it to do. So it's perfect for it, and it has a really cool looking Art Deco kind of look to it, like an old Streamliner train or something like that. And it's really cool, and with the patina that they put on it, it just looked like it fit the part perfectly. So to make a long story short, there's a gentleman that I found on the web that had some plans all done up perfectly in 1/25th scale for cutting out all the styrene sheet that you would need to create the tank and the side skirts and everything. You'd still have to get another trailer of some kind so you could have the running gear and the axles and the hitch and the other stuff that you're going to need. So I kept looking around, and I found this Dodge D700 tanker kit, it was called. It's an old early 60s Dodge tilt cab light duty tractor with a shorty type fuel tanker, and the shape of the fuel tank itself is really close to what the Duel tank looks like. It might need to be sloped a little bit in the rear. I could never find any pictures of the back half of it. The Duel truck has a sort of a slope to it, but we might be able to modify that and then simply put the side skirts on there out of sheet styrene and build up a little bit more of the filler panels here and there, and then we would have the running gear and everything that we would need too. So I went ahead and ordered one of those kits. I found it for a good price on eBay. So we're going to try to work with that. That'll be plan A. If that fails, then we'll go back to plan B, which will be making it entirely out of scratch, and then we'll still have the running gear that we would need for that anyway. So it should work out one way or the other. Okay, guys, well, that's a wrap for this one. I promise not to cut you out again. It's just so much fun working on this, trying something different. I love doing the weathering and the working with some of these other mediums, you know, like this acrylics and these chalks and these different things, and trying to add this patina on this truck has been a lot of fun. So we'll see you with the next one, guys. It'll be a few days. When we get the hood in, we'll be working on that next. Until we do, take care, everybody, and happy modeling, guys.